This podcast is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The content shared is not a substitute for professional medical, mental health, legal, or financial advice. Please consult a qualified professional for personalized guidance or treatment. By listening, you acknowledge that the hosts and guests are not responsible for any decisions or actions you take based on this content.
Feel like a grouch, go beyond the couch. Share your confessions on the Aurora Sessions.
Hello, Aurora Healing Crew. Welcome to the Aurora Sessions Beyond the Couch, where we take the stressors that come up in session and bring them into conversation beyond the couch. This is the space where real talk meets real life. Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming to record a podcast with us.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us what you do?
My name is Amy Ray. I am a registered dietitian and owner of Ray of Hope Nutrition. I started Ray of Hope Nutrition a little over 3 years ago when I moved to New Jersey.
Okay. And what got you to open Ray of Hope? What did you do before Ray of Hope?
Yeah, so I started my nutrition career in the clinical setting in hospitals. I worked in hospitals for a couple years, and then I actually was in sales. I sold formula to hospitals, and after that, I found my niche in eating disorders and worked in higher levels of care, so partial hospitalization, IOPs, and eventually outpatient for years. And outpatient is where I found the level of care that I love the most. And that's why I decided when I moved to South Jersey, there was no other dietitians providing eating disorder care in the area.
And when you were working in IOP, partial, and at facilities, were you working as a nutritionist?
Yes, so I was a registered dietitian there. So I was helping clients with their meal plans. I was eating meals with them. We were having one-on-one meetings and also leading groups, nutrition groups for all the clients.
That's so fun and so needed because with mental health and medications, a lot of times what you eat, gut health also affects your mood. And a lot of us don't know what the formula is for gut health and how to help our anxiety and what foods are making our anxiety worse.
Exactly. And it's beneficial to have someone there to ease the anxiety around the food that the clients are eating that might be a little harder for them or challenging for them to eat.
Even with medications, right? Certain medications you have to avoid certain foods, but also like the side effects of not a lot, but one of the main reasons why people are afraid of antidepressants, they say, well, I don't want to gain weight because if I gain weight, then I'm going to be even more depressed. So that is helpful to have.
Yeah, having someone to kind of talk that out with, and also the benefit of being in a higher level of care. If you have dietitians, you have therapists, you have psychiatrists, and you have doctors all right there. So you can talk about your fears with all of them.
Okay. I wanted to tell everybody how we met. It is it's always a funny story because I tend to meet people by chance and then suck them into my life. So
have them on podcast.
Yes, exactly. You will come and talk on the podcast. So Amy first reached out to me when you opened Ray of Hope and when you first moved to South Jersey. And I said, yes, I do want to talk to you. And I never followed up with you. And I ghosted you.
So I reached back out.
Yes. And she reached back out in 2 years. And I remembered her name because my memory is weird like that. And I remembered that she was local. And I said, I definitely want to talk to her. So we met over Zoom. And I noticed that you were in the same town as I am. So at the end of our Zoom meet and greet, I said, where do you live in town? Because it's a small town. And she lives maybe 5 minutes walking distance from me. And I said, why are we Zooming? And then from there, I invited her to a conference at Rowan. And I thought that it would be a great networking thing. And I told the practice about you, and then we refer clients back and forth. So I am happy that I didn't ghost you the second time.
Yes, same here. Same here. Persistence is key.
I normally don't ghost people. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
But I missed out on 2 years of Ray of Hope. So the first question was going to be, share a little bit about your journey of Ray of Hope. What made you decide to add people to your practice?
My goal when opening Ray of Hope was to never have a waiting list. So when I kind of got to the point where people were waiting maybe 2 weeks to see me, I said, okay, this is time to add another dietitian to the group. So,
How successful. That's so great. How long did it take you to have a wait list?
I hired my first dietitian in the summer, so a year after opening. So about a year.
That's fantastic.
And then a year later, I hired another dietitian. So I have 2 dietitians working for me.
How did people find you?
I think my website, I did a lot of networking and reaching out when I first started. And I still have my license in Pennsylvania. So still having that connection with working with a lot of therapists from Pennsylvania was where I got a lot of referrals as well.
That's so great. And now you still don't have a wait list?
Correct.
That's
A wait list,
amazing.
yes.
Good. So Ray of Hope, that's a powerful name for your company, for your practice. What does it mean, and how does it reflect your approach on nutrition and wellness?
One night, my husband and I were brainstorming ideas for the practice, and he just said, Ray of Hope Nutrition. I said, yes, it just stuck. I liked using our last name. And I just kind of feel like it represents what my practice wants to be, in safe, supportive space for people to heal their relationship with food. I think also, too, if you do check out my website, it's full of sunflowers. And to me, sunflowers represent happiness, positivity, and resilience, which I kind of want to be able to leave my clients with as we work together.
I know this is like the weird part, quirky part of myself, but to me it's like, oh my gosh, we were meant to be friends because Aurora's son is from my maiden name, and son Ray, and I used to, use sunflowers, the perfume. Do you remember sunflowers?
Oh, yes. I do.
Yeah, so that was my signature scent.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I love that. So back to the next question. What do you believe are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about nutrition and intuitive eating? So to break that down a little bit, I remember as a woman in my 40s, I started learning about intuitive eating, I believe, from Oprah first on one of her episodes. I watched Oprah since I was like 9 years old. So I love her so much. And she, was always open about her weight loss journey, her struggles. And she had on the intuitive eating people that first pioneered it. And I remember thinking, okay, just listen to your body and stop eating when your body says no. Well, that is a scary thing. So can you explain a little bit about what intuitive eating is first?
Yes. So intuitive eating consists of 10 principles. And some of those principles are stopping the food police, honoring your hunger and fullness. And I think when we first start to hear about intuitive eating, we expect to follow the 10 steps of intuitive eating, 1 through 10, in order. And it's kind of like we check it off. Okay, number 1, we're done, we're good. We don't have to go back to that one, on to number 2. But intuitive eating really can be something that you pick out a couple topics that you like and you can practice them for the rest of your lives. It's not something that's going to be perfect. It's not something that is always going to feel good, but it's a way to connect to your body and listen to cues that your body is giving you in terms of hunger, fullness.
It's hard because with diets, quote unquote, it has always been we have to follow the rules, the rigidity, the counting, the ins and out, and macros and micros. So when we say intuitive and the 10 principles, again, we want to apply the rigidity to the 10
Yes.
principles of intuitive eating.
Yes.
And you're saying that we don't have to?
We don't have to do that, right? We're so used to having someone, a diet or someone else telling us what to eat, how much to eat. And so the intuitive eating is saying, no, we can trust our bodies to know what we have to eat and how much to eat.
I have anxiety just hearing we can trust our bodies what to eat. Okay. So the biggest misconception about nutrition and intuitive eating. So I guess how do we make sure that we're getting our nutrition when we're following intuitive eating?
So I think one of the big questions that people have, and we have to kind of take a larger look at our intake. A lot of times when we're following diets, it's meal to meal and snack to snack. Did I have a fat and a protein with my snack? Okay, yes, check on a diet. That was a good snack. With intuitive eating, can we take a larger look at say, okay, you know what? For the past month, my meals felt good to me. I didn't go too long with being hungry. I didn't overeat too many times. And so that is a predictor of we're giving our bodies what we need.
Interesting. And a lot of times with dieting and diet culture, the scale is part of that. How does your practice use a scale or don't use a scale, or what is the philosophy around weighing?
In terms of weighing yourself
Yes.
or the food? So weighing
Both.
yourself, both.
Yeah.
Yes. So for weighing food, I always say hard no, because what that does to us is that takes away any internal cue that we have when we're eating. So if I weigh, let's say, a bowl of potato chips and we're looking for the serving size, that bowl of potato chips is in front of me. I'm going to eat them until they are done. If I'm full halfway, it doesn't matter. I weighed this out. I'm still going to finish
That
them.
is true.
Or the bowl is empty. I'm still hungry. Well, I weighed it out and this is what I can have. So if we take the scale away, we're becoming more mindful of our cues that our body's sending us throughout the snack. So, oh, maybe there's a 3/4 of the chips left and I'm feeling satisfied. I'm going to put them away for later. Or the bowl's empty. I'm still hungry. I'm going to go back and get more potato chips. Anything that you do is right because you're listening to your body.
Okay. And what about weighing ourselves, which
There's two different philosophies on that. So a lot of people believe that we just stay away from the scale because that number does not mean anything to our well-being. And a lot of times when we're on diets, we're so used to having that number dictate what we're going to do that day, how we feel about ourselves that day, what we're going to eat that day. And so we take that away by not weighing ourselves. Other philosophies are, you know what, I'm going to get on that scale. I'm going to see what that number is, and I'm still going to decide to have grace with myself and do what I need to do for my body to feel good. And so myself, I let the client choose what is best for them. Do they want to weigh themselves or do they not? If they choose to wanting to weigh themselves, sometimes I say, well, maybe, some clients are used to weighing themselves multiple times a day. So we say, okay, let's try and back that up. And maybe you weigh yourselves on the days you're seeing me and you're seeing your therapist, where then you can have the time to process that. So we kind of come up with little goals.
I love that. I love that you let the clients choose because ultimately, which we were talking about before we started recording, did you call it body autonomy or
Body autonomy.
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I want the client to be able to decide what is best for them. And I think if I'm going to sit here and tell them what's best for them, it's kind of like I'm giving them another diet or another set of rules that they have to follow. And so if they can figure out with guidance what's best for them, that's what's going to be most successful in the long run.
How long do you think it takes for somebody who have had an eating disorder or have an eating disorder or just chronic dieting, learn their cues to trust the process?
I think it depends on how much they're willing to let go of some of or all of the beliefs that they have had in the past. I think in terms of a lot of times what we do is, have you seen a hunger fullness scale? You see them online or you see them. So I'll have a client create their own hunger fullness scale. 10 being the fullest you've ever been, 1 being so hungry that you have to eat anything. Clients who have history of eating disorders or chronic dieting are used to those extremes. You're either so full that you can't move or you're so hungry you can't even think about what to eat. And so we miss those cues in between. We always think maybe like the 3 through 7 numbers on the hunger scale we're missing out on because we're bouncing back from extreme to extreme. So we're trying to process, what does it mean if I start to get hungry? What is my body saying? Am I starting to think about food a little bit? Am I maybe getting a little shaky or a headache? And we're trying to, maybe that is a cue that I'm hungry, right? And also with fullness as we're eating, what are some cues that we're getting too full?
A lot of what you're saying is very similar to what we do with trauma work and also what we teach our clients with listening to their gut and how they're feeling. How much, I guess, when do you know you have to loop in a therapist, or how much is within like your training as a nutritionist?
That's a good question. And that's why every client that I see is working with a therapist. And so, and a lot of times they do overlap. And a lot of times clients will say, oh, this wasn't about food. I'm like, yeah, but I'm sure that we're learning a lot about our bodies, but also let's make sure that your therapist knows all about this. And it's a lot of communication between myself and the therapist as well. It's like, this came up in therapy and during my session. I want to make sure that you're aware of it.
Okay. And so as far as people who find you, what is the demographic of the clients that come to your practice, and what are some of the stereotypes of the demographics or myths about eating?
So we will see anyone 12 and older.
That's so sad to me. Oh my gosh.
And I think we are seeing younger and younger kids who are just, parents are noticing weight loss or just kind of restricting food groups.
As far as ethnicities, like what are they? I know we're in South Jersey. We're also close to Philly. But so do you see any trends or maybe even stigmas with even worrying about being too big in a larger body or in a smaller body?
I think, in terms of males, a lot of males have been reaching out, which
Interesting.
is not as much the norm as it was in the past. I think a lot of times when males were struggling with eating, it would kind of just be secret and they would kind of keep to themselves. So I think it's good that more are reaching out. And also there's a lot, I think, too, with the pressure of sports. To make a certain weight or be a certain size. And the pressure that comes with that, a lot of sports, nutrition, and eating disorders has been overlapping.
Do you find when I hear about, let's say, wrestling and people making weight, I get all like anxious and start twitching because it's so opposite of what we teach. But I do understand that sports is a whole different ball of wax, and just because you have to do that doesn't mean you develop a eating disorder. So what would you say to parents? How do we balance sports, nutrition, and when they have to make weight, or when they have to want to train to run faster or eat enough calories to swim?
And I think the big thing to look out for is cutting weight or eating enough calories or training enough to swim faster. Are any of those things getting in the way of them doing other things? So can we not go to a friend's house because we don't know what we're going to be eating there and we're not going to be able to make weight? Will that get in the way? Then it might become a problem or an issue.
I love that, because that is so parallel to mental health, because it's not a problem unless it's a problem or getting away with something in your life. So an example I use is if people hear voices or see things, and that's an extreme. But if it's not bothering anybody and it's not a nuisance to them, who are we to say they need to be on medications or need extra help? But if it's a problem in their relationship and it's irritating their spouse, then that's a problem.
Exactly. And some people are so used to saying, oh, well, I'm just not going to go out to dinner, or I'm just not going to go see a friend because this food is there. And it's like, well, pause, hold on. What does that mean for your overall health? Like, how many times are we missing out on social events because of food? And so kind of looking at that and what it really is doing to our overall well-being.
I think missing out on social events is a key thing, because whether you're missing out or it's one of the biggest triggers for relapse of our diets or whatever that is, I think that's when it becomes more of a problem within themselves, meaning like their emotional struggles. Because how do I stay on this restrictive diet or even a non-restrictive diet, but I want to hang with my friends and coworkers and not be weird bringing my own food? So what are your tips for your clients?
Finding the root cause, first of all, of what is like the biggest driving force of keeping you away from, let's say, a happy hour with coworkers. And so if it's, okay, well, there's this food that I don't allow myself to have. And if I see it, I am afraid that I'm going to overeat it. So normalizing whatever food that is. And also discussing, I think a lot of times when there is food at a happy hour or social event, I just have enough willpower to stay away from it and not eat it. I'll be good. Well, that's only going to last us for so long, because it's not about willpower. It's about finding the root cause of why we think we can't have control around this food. So then that leads to, maybe I'll ask the client to bring that food to a session and we'll eat it together and we'll process it.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
Yeah, normalizing all food.
So do you incorporate, so let's say someone says, X diet has really helped me and I'm having a hard time maintaining my weight and I had a huge success with this X diet. How can you help me stick with this X diet? So do you help them stay on this diet, or what do you do with that?
I ask them what worked for them while following that diet. I think it's important to recognize too that if diets worked, we wouldn't be hopping from diet to diet to diet. The diet industry makes us feel like we're failures for not staying on a diet or not being able to stick with the diet. And so a lot of it is exploring that. And maybe, what did you like about this diet? How maybe can we incorporate a little bit into it, but maybe also backing away from the diet as well.
Okay. What you said about willpower also made me think, when we talk about addiction with people, people who are like following the 12 steps AA, we say it's not about willpower, because if you are around it long enough, your willpower will give in. So that is great that you are teaching your clients about neutralizing food, because if you neutralize food, then you don't have to use willpower. You're using different muscles.
No one food needs to be on a pedestal. They all have their own neutrality. Food isn't good or bad. It's neutral.
Yes. So I try really hard to not use the word good and bad in session or call it out when it comes up, because there's a morality behind it. And that comes from, which we talk about in session, mother, father, teacher, preacher are the four most influential people that shape what we think about ourselves and how we see the world. So when we see food as good or bad, we see ourselves as good or bad with how much willpower we have with restricting or not restricting, or eating the ice cream or not eating the ice cream.
Yes. And either way that you go, it's then going to lead to guilt and shame.
Yes,
right?
which leads to maladaptive behaviors like alcohol or binge eating.
Or more food or
Yes,
less food.
exactly.
Right?
It's a vicious cycle.
Yes.
What are some common signs that somebody's or someone's body image struggles are affecting their mental health, even if they don't realize it?
I think one of the signs, going back to what we were just talking about, is skipping out on social activities. If we're not feeling good about how we're presenting, or we're not feeling good about our bodies, we typically tend to isolate. So taking a look and seeing maybe how often we are skipping out on events, and why is that? Is that based on how we're feeling and how we're feeling in our body?
Okay. And one of the things we were talked about social, like socializing, but also in the realm of social media and imaging and, please don't judge me, audience, but I've given in and given my children social media too. So how do we protect, or what do I know this is a loaded question, but one of the things that's it's impossible to go on Instagram without a GLP-1 ad. And I'm all for, if it's a tool that works for you, that's great. But how do we incorporate that with going down the line of disordered eating and helpful versus harmful? And how do you navigate that with your clients?
I think one of the biggest thing is just acknowledging all the different messages that we get from social media and growing up, and how do we protect ourselves from that, and also what are the messaging that, what do we want to take from it, and what maybe is not going to be beneficial.
What do we say to, I guess, I know this is like probably outside, this doesn't come up in your sessions, but as a parent, I know you're a mom, if that's okay to say. So you're a mom. So how do we, I always say I'm not as powerful as society. I can't compete with society. I can't compete with the ads. Your mother, even though mother, father, teacher, preacher are so heavy and responsible for shaping them, eventually they grow up and they notice the world around them. So what are some positive messaging that parents can give to their children?
Yeah. And so my daughters are young, and they're already coming home and saying, oh, so-and-so said this food wasn't healthy. Or my teacher said I have to finish this food before I can eat this food at lunch. And I just remind them, in this household, every food is healthy and every food has a purpose. And in this household, we can choose what food to eat first and second when we're eating our lunch or our breakfast. And I just constantly am reminding them that it's simple, but it's just something that then they say back to me. Like sometimes they'll say, oh, fruit's healthy. And you hear the other one say, all foods are healthy.
Oh, I love
just
that.
kind of like, yes, they're reinforcing to each other what I'm
Yes.
trying to tell them. I think those messages are not the norm. Going out to schools and being on social media is more the norm of good and bad foods. So just constantly reminding them of neutrality.
So for new parents, and I wish I met you when I didn't have kids, so I could utilize our friendship for personal purposes. How do you guide your parents or parents with children as far as, I know there's like baby-led eating where the baby picks the food and you're not even like pureeing it for them.
They're just gnawing on it.
Yes. So what are some tips, because I know it's a loaded question too, that you can give parents who are afraid, they can't have so many snacks. You're not going to learn when they're hungry, or they're only eating for emotional reasons, which I knew I carried a toddler bag and just threw whatever I needed to keep my kid quiet.
Soothing food.
Yes.
Right? I always remind parents that we are born intuitive eaters. And I think it's also important to take a step back and reflect on, are certain foods feeling chaotic for us because we feel chaotic around food. And so then are we putting that onto our children? We have to be reminded that we still are in control of what our children are eating, even if they're following an intuitive eating model. We get to choose when they eat, and we get to choose what it is. If you want to put a plate on the table, they're just choosing how much.
I love that, because as parents, we need to know we have all the control.
Exactly.
By reminding them that they're still in control of what they're shopping for and when the kid is eating, that is can help with the anxiety of, oh my gosh. What about, because I remember even after the babies came home and my kids were touching 10 pounds. And of course, every baby, they will lose some natural weight after the first week because of all the fluids. But even at that weight, first it was like, oh, your baby's too big. Then it's like, oh, they're losing too much, and come back for a weight check and make sure they're eating. Wake them up to eat. So, so how can you kind of, I guess, what are some tips for the new moms out there who's being pushed by the medical world to wake them up to eat?
To wake them up to eat. You think that maybe that could be some of your intuitiveness putting onto the child, where the dog, because we'll work with, maybe we have to set an alarm so we make sure that we're eating every couple hours. And if maybe that's what we're doing for that baby or that newborn, to make sure that they are then getting the calories and the nutrients that they do need.
Okay. So one of the questions I have here is about stress-related eating. And I feel like that could be, emotional eating. And because as a mom, I also threw food at my kids when they were upset. So they learn to soothe with food. As adults, we soothe with food. Breakups, you always see breakups on movies with ice cream. And so what are some tips to help with stress or emotional eating with your clients?
I think when we hear stress or emotional eating, it's like a bad word. Like, oh my gosh, we can't do that. But I think it's important to understand and realize, like, it's going to happen. Sometimes it's going to happen, and it's okay, right? And so what do we do maybe the next day or the next meal after stress or emotional eating? And I think that's the most important thing is, okay, did I overeat last night? Well, let's still make sure that I would have the same breakfast that I have the next morning. Did I not eat enough last night because I was stressed? Let's still make sure that I'm going to have the same breakfast the next morning. And so trying to normalize that it's okay, but also then looping in the therapist and saying, okay, it's okay. It can be a coping mechanism, but we also want to make sure it's not the only coping mechanism that we have when we're having high emotions and experiencing high emotion.
That's a great keyword, high emotions, big feelings, because regardless if it's food or throwing something across the room or sobbing and laying in our beds all day long. When we have big feelings and big emotions, it's about self-regulating and whatever helps us, and then we could process it later. One of the questions that I remember that I wanted to ask when we were talking about kids is, what tips do you have for parents who are afraid because of their own generational disordered eating coming from, parents, and about they're afraid their kid will be made fun of if they're in a larger body, or and so we're trying to prevent them from, let's say, being made fun of. What can you tell parents to intuitive eat, or that's to neutralize the food?
Yeah, because I think as a child, if we're starting to hear these comments from our parents of, oh, you're eating too much, or don't have that, it kind of lights that food up in that child's mind. Like, okay, well, I really want it. And if I have this, am I bad for having this? And then it's going to increase our, maybe shame for really wanting to have that food. And are we going to go sneak it at night? And so regardless of what your child's size is, let them have the food. And it takes the power away from the food when the child is able to say, I want this, or I do not want this.
What happens, though, because this is a real life situation, that they go to their yearly well visit and the medical profession is saying things like, are we exercising enough? But we know it's because they're in a larger body and they're trying to be more weight inclusive and not harm. I do want to give the medical profession credit for that. But I guess because that's a real fear from parents, because there's still a misconception that your body size is related to cholesterol or diabetes versus behavior. So what tips do you have for parents with that?
I think it's important a lot of times to look at the child's growth chart. Are they on maybe their own growth chart? And that's more reassuring than if their growth is going up or down or dropping. So taking a look, maybe asking the doctor to look at their growth chart.
So if they're on the right track, then, like, if my kids, I hope it's okay, they were always 99 percentile for height and weight. And the doctors always said that they were proportionate and that it's okay that they were 99% because their height was 99%. So it was, and they're always going to, they're on that trend.
Yes. So they have created maybe their own growth curve.
Yes.
Which is important. So that's something to look at.
Okay. What's one mindset shift around food and body image that you wish more people could embrace right now?
I think talking about intuitive eating and diets, we're always told, eat less, take this away from our meal, take this away from our snacks. And if we could change our mindset to, oh, what could I add to my meal? What could I add to my snack to make it more satisfying, to add a little bit more fiber to this meal would be a good mind shift.
Like, what can we add versus subtract?
Yes, exactly. Because we're always, when we're following diets, it's like, okay, don't have carbs or don't have fat, or, you're eating too much protein. So it's like, okay, wait, no, maybe we can look at a plate and say, what can I add to this to make it taste better, for the satisfaction piece to be better and to feel satisfied, full.
And I heard the tip of making your plate as colorful as possible. Is that like a valid tip, or?
Yeah, I mean, that is something where, okay, what do we think are colorful foods? So,
like green peppers, which not a lot of people like, but that's just what came to my mind.
Yeah. So different fruits and vegetables. And so if we start with that, it's like, okay, well then what do fruits and vegetables provide? Carbohydrates, fiber, different micronutrients that we're going to need. So without getting too much into what exactly is in those foods, it's okay, I have different colors. I'm going to have different macronutrients and micronutrients on this plate.
Okay. So one more question about yourself, and then we'll move on to some fun questions. What brought you to want to be a nutritionist?
I went to Westchester University, and I always wanted to do something in the health field. I always thought maybe a nurse or a therapist. And then I just started taking nutrition classes, and I loved it. And I said, okay, well, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
So we noticed when we were when Ariane was doing research and curating the questions that you are from Delco, as they say.
Yes, I am.
And being from Delco, it's really funny because all my friends from Delco say you all know each other. You all have a certain personality. My last guest was from Delco too. So I was wondering if you two knew each other, but I'm not sure. You're a Phillies fan by choice or because you have to because you're from Delco?
Right, probably a little bit of both. Grow up, just my mom was a huge Phillies fan, and my dad was a huge Eagles fan, and so that's what I am now. And my kids.
They better be.
Exactly.
How are you feeling about the upcoming season after the big Super Bowl win for the Eagles?
Very excited. I still don't think I believe that they won. I'm like, is that real? But already kind of reading about what they're looking like in training camp and going to the home opener, which I'm very excited for.
With the Cowboys?
Yes.
Okay, I've been trying to get people on board with that. Yes.
I will help you.
What do you mean you'll help
Get
me?
people on board.
Oh, yes. I thought you were going to give me tickets. Okay. Okay. What are some of your go-to self-care practices, especially as a busy mom and a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, I try to get to the gym. And another thing that I like to do is get my nails painted.
Oh, nice. Okay. And one last question. Outside of nutrition, what currently brings you joy? And don't say your children.
I was going to say we spent a lot of time at the pool. So watching my girls' first year swimming was really fun this summer.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And I've actually started going to the library and taking books out for myself and reading.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. Swimming is it starts like all sports, fun.
Yes.
And then, so do you think you have little Michael Phelps?
Doesn't everyone?
I know. That's why I asked, because
Exactly,
obviously your
of course.
children are
Right.
superstars.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming and taking time out of your day. And can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, so my website is rayofhopenutrition.com. And through there, you can send an email. You can also email me at rayofhopenutrition@gmail.com.
And what insurances do you take?
We are in network with Aetna and Cigna.
Great. And are your rates available online, or do they email you for that?
So rates are all available online, and also a step-by-step procedure to see if you have out-of-network benefits. If you call your insurance and find that out-of-network nutrition benefits.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it was such a pleasure having you on.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Before we go, Aurora Healing Crew, take a deep breath like you're soaking in sunlight. Warm, steady, grounding. As you move through your day, check in with your gut. Notice how you feel around others. Your energy is precious. Protect it so you have the strength and light to do what really matters to you. Because life is hard, and we're getting through it together. Thank you for listening to the Aurora Sessions Beyond the Couch. Visit our website at aurorasuncounseling.com to learn more. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Just search Aurora Sun Counseling. Got questions or topics you'd love to hear us cover? Email us at info@aurorasuncounseling.com or drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you.